Here's Matt Walsh with, I don't know, this is just like so psycho. The guy's so desperate now that his, like, the luster of his anti-trans stuff is worn off. He's coming down. I've seen this with people who, like, you know, had moments of their 15 minutes of fame, and then they're constantly chasing it again. And the problem is that he doesn't know where to go. There's just not a lot of new territory. You can hope that, like, anti-Muslim bigotry will reemerge and try and ride that train. We've seen
Sam Harris is right there to come back.
Exactly. It is harder and harder, I think, for certainly in terms of, like, if you want to attract a younger audience, where we know the Daily Wire must be trying to do that, right? That's why they're doing this entertainment stuff. They think they're going to attract a younger audience. But the problem that Matt Walsh has is that he can only play to older people or fundamentalists. And so he goes back on this, and this is, I don't know, it just seems like this feels like the 1980s all over again. Here is Matt Walsh talking about how desperate he doesn't want his kids to be gay.
Now, if you are not the perceptive sort, you might listen to all this and say, well, this is unfair to gay couples. What if they want to have children? What are they supposed to do? Don't we need to have some kind of system in place to help them achieve their parenthood dreams? The answer to that question is no, we don't. Homosexual unions are sterile by their nature. It's not an exception to the rule when they are. It's not the result of sickness or genetic defect when a homosexual couple is unable to have children. None of them are able, or have ever been able, or ever will be able.
Can you pause it for a sec?
That is a sign.
Is a sterile relationship one where, say, a woman has had a hysterectomy?
He is saying that it's only legitimate, based upon the rule of Matt Walsh, for you to have a child if you are sick or have a genetic defect, and then you can get a surrogate. Now,
right.
The weird part is that there is also, which you may not be aware of, two cisgender women can get married and also can have a child.
That's true.
And you don't, and they can actually give birth themselves. Mm-hmm. But he's got a very narrow perspective of what constitutes gay for the sake of this this made up.
He's got one thing on his mind.
Made up theorem that he has. But go ahead.
None of them are able, or have ever been able, or ever will be able. That is a sign from nature, about as glaring and obvious as signs as you never see, that gay couples are not meant to have kids. They're not meant to have kids because they cannot ever have kids, because kids are meant to have both a mom and a dad.
Tell that to Dave Rubin.
Now, it's true that plenty of kids end up with just one of those, or sometimes none, but this just means that something went wrong. In that case, you do the best you can to compensate. But with surrogacy, we are designing children from the outset to be motherless or fatherless. We are intentionally depriving them of what they are supposed to have. You know, it's true that some children grow up with one arm or no arms, but that obviously doesn't make it any more horrific or any less horrific or barbaric to intentionally chop a child's arm off. You know, the fact that some children end up that way, yes, but a child is supposed to have two arms at birth. And to intentionally design a child to only have one, we would all agree it's like mad scientist horror. But this is essentially what we're doing with commercial surrogacy. And only it's worse because it's far better for a child to be raised lacking one of his arms than to be raised lacking one of his parents. And that's why I will never applaud and cheer when we get these birth announcements from gay couples, because I'm more concerned about what the child needs than what those men want.
Those men.
Just men.
This sounds like somebody is directed this at one particular person. Has there been a recent birth announcement?
My ears are burning.
That is an interesting subtweet, as it were, right?
Shot across the bow.
But who's the audience for this? Like, how old do you have to be, or fundamentalist do you have to be, to subscribe to this notion that you can't have two same-gendered parents? Like my kid, like even my 18-year-old grew up with multiple friends who had two same-gender parents. Probably more parents who were divorced and single parents that were cis, that were heteros. There's certainly more of those. But the idea of two parents of the same gender was like, I don't know, like the idea of was less controversial than maybe, parents who were divorced.
Yeah, that whole argument's predicated on lies, which is that it says like in a single family household to a two-parent mother and father, but you get the same effect if you have two parents that are mother and mother and father, but they just compare it to a single parent.
I mean, this is the party that says that they care about parental rights, and you can just kind of deconstruct that quite quickly, which is that it's the right for parents to exist in the way that my Bible says that they can exist, and it's the right for children to continue to live in the gender that they were assigned at birth, regardless of what they want or what kids would have to say about having two parents. If they'd rather have two dads than have one arm, I think that the children, either young or grown, would very easily say that it would be quite an easy decision for them at that point. But
Smooth Operator's got a great point here, too. Matt Walsh's appeal to nature is so stupid because he literally wears glasses. Isn't nature telling him he's supposed to be blind? And I would argue, actually, no, more than that. Not only is nature saying to Matt Walsh, you're not supposed to be, you're supposed to be blind, but nature is saying you're not supposed to procreate. Because you're supposed to be able to, you're not supposed to be able to see. And therefore, it should make it much harder for you to get food. And you should be basically with your parents the whole time and not out in outside of the home or whatever, the cave that you're in, because nature has said that your gene pool is deficient. And we want to give you a disadvantage, and you're unnaturally, because glasses don't grow in nature, you're unnaturally enhancing your ability to survive in society. And nature didn't want that. Nature did not want you to be out there. Nature wanted you not to be able to see that tiger or that whatever that natural threat was coming to get you and survive it. And that's why we got rid of your eyesight.
Natural selection.
Exactly. His wearing glasses is inhibiting natural selection.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone who is also inhibiting natural selection. Without my glasses, I wouldn't even be able to walk home.
I mean, but you don't obviously subscribe to everything needing to be natural law. And it's also just funny, too, how it's
weird he's wearing clothes.
They treat, nature as if it's this kind of static, fixed thing that doesn't change, by the way, but also they ignore things in nature like the fact that there are same-sex couples in nature. Different animals have relationships that are same-sex that they just completely don't contend with whatsoever. But apparently that's an unnatural representation of nature within nature. Or, those penguins are just so woke.
Does he fly on planes?
Oh, yeah.
Because nature made it impossible for us to fly on our own, but yet we developed this weird ability. And I would say the same for cars. Like, human beings don't naturally move at 50 miles an hour. The whole construction of his argument
modern
is
healthcare
absurd.
Yeah.
Every medication he takes
How
is
about those hair
unnatural.
plugs? How about those hair plugs?
You think he has hair plugs? No, I don't think so. But nevertheless, I mean, the point being,
Hair dye?
I don't know.
Beard dye?
Possibly.
Unnatural.
But the bottom line
hair.
is, like, look around you in society and see what is unnatural and see how long you'd want to live in that world. Homes are constructed by people. They are transportation constructed by people. On and on and on. The idea that nature didn't intend this is an absurd calculation.
I mean, yeah.
And he would end up being a full-on degrowther if he genuinely believed that.
I mean, fundamentalists have been pretending like they're doing science since like the Scopes monkey trial. It's basically, it's like saying, actually, it's intelligent design did all this stuff. Yeah, it's fundamentalism disguised as science.
Totally.